start, kar? So, good afternoon, students. Today we will study about marginalized section, which comes under your syllabus. So, in the next slide, as you see that, first of all, we need to understand what do we mean by marginalized section. So, the marginalized section of the society is the most vulnerable part of the system. They are in that position due to the various reasons existing in the society. So, as the name itself says, marginalized means they have been impoverished and they have been the worst sufferers in the society. Because we know that in a particular society there are two types of classes. One is the elite class and another one is the marginalized class. So, the elite class, they have all the opportunities. They can have access to the educational opportunities, the economic facilities, the employment and all those things. On the other hand, the marginalized section, they don't have access to economic opportunities, educational opportunities, and also they lack political representation. So, they have been marginalized. So, the gender poverty, lack of education, lack of resources, lack of awareness also are some sort of reasons that leads to the emergence of marginalized section. So, because they don't have the access to all the resources that are essential for a human being to develop and to lead a good enough life, that's why they have become marginalized. So, they belong to the rural, urban, semi-rural areas and also semi-urban areas of the country. So, it's not that the marginalized section of the society are only found in the rural areas. No, it would be wrong to say that, but they are also found in the urban areas, in the cities, or you can say in the urban areas, the semi-urban areas, where we find so many people who are poor and who have become marginalized. So, they are identified because of their vulnerability to food, health, education, and so on. So, here it says that they are so much vulnerable that they don't have access to the good healthcare facilities and also the economic facilities and education facilities. So, this is a vicious cycle of poverty. So, they fail to move out of that cycle of poverty because they enter into that cycle and they have not been able to come out of that cycle. That's why they have become vulnerable and they have become marginalized. So, no financial stability means no money ultimately leads to the generation of marginalized section. So, they don't have financial stability, they lack money, they lack the financial resources which would have helped them to fulfill their basic needs. So, for making them independent and self-sufficient, we need to break that cycle. Furthermore, building up the system of education, health, and laws is one step ahead only, but expanding access to them is the ultimate goal. So, this marginalized section of the society who have remained at the backstage, they need to come out, they need to be supported by the rest of the members of the society like the other individuals, the elites, or also the middle class members who should help these marginalized sections, these people to come out that vicious cycle of poverty and to have access to educational, economic and also health facilities. So, in the next slide, so marginalized groups are viewed with hostility and fear. So, sometimes they are viewed as a kind of negative factor in the society and they are also viewed to be being the obstacle to the economic development or you can say social development of a particular society. But this sense of difference and exclusion leads to communities not having access to resources and opportunities in their inability to assert their rights. So, when other people, they view the marginalized section in a negative way, when they are not supported and they are excluded from the mainstream population, in that case, that indirectly also has linked to further removing them from the mainstream society, further from removing from them their access to the educational and economic and other facilities in the society. So, they mostly remain excluded. So they are not included in the developmental process of the particular society. So they experience a sense of disadvantage and powerlessness vis-a-vis more powerful and dominant section of society who own land, are wealthy, better educated and politically powerful. So because they lack the facilities, because they lack the resources and they are excluded, they become marginalized, and they also in that way are not able to participate in the developmental processes, and they become powerless in that manner. On the other hand, when we see the elite section of a particular society, they have everything, they have the power, they have the financial resources to access all the facilities available. So economic, social, cultural and political factors work together to make certain groups in society feel marginalized. So in order to be marginalized in a particular society, a particular group of people don't have the access to all these factors like social, economic, political, educational, health, all these things which include and which all together lead to their marginalization. So in the next slide, we will be studying about one of the most relevant marginalized community of India, that is scheduled caste. So as in the picture you can see, there are some ladies who belong to a scheduled caste, and in the next slide, so we need to understand first of all what is scheduled caste, because before understanding it, will not be able to understand what are the problems they are facing and what are the causes that lead to their marginalization. Okay, so scheduled caste are people belonging to those castes or races which have been or may in future be specified in the list in accordance to the Article 341 of the Constitution. So our Indian Constitution has recognized a group of castes as scheduled caste, and that is mentioned in Article 341 of the Constitution. So this may come as a question in your examination. So you need to remember certain articles where this list of the scheduled caste or scheduled tribes are mentioned. So in traditional terms, these are the people who were considered outcasts, categorized as untouchables, and the people, the lower caste considered untouchable, were assigned to menial jobs and occupation. So who are the scheduled caste and why they became marginalized? Because historically they have been the worst sufferer of the social system that existed in the traditional Indian society. So they are the Dalits, they are the untouchables, they are also termed as the outcast. So they were oppressed and exploited by those who belonged to the higher caste. So here also we can see a division, a kind of hierarchy, because when you studied the caste system, you must have known about the feature of the caste system, why caste system exists in India, the theories that are associated with caste system, and also some of the justifications of caste system. So here there are different caste groups: Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras, and also there are untouchables or Dalits who come at the lowest rung in the hierarchy. So what happens is that this higher caste people or higher caste men and women, they exploit the lower caste people. So in that way, traditionally and historically they have been exploited and they have become marginalized. So economically and socially they remain extremely poor and marginalized. During the course of history, there had been emerging voices against the caste system. Religious and social reformers have been raising voices against it and for its abolition. Religious movements like Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism and Bhakti movement in general have rejected the social and ritual justification of this caste system in operation. So we have many important leaders in our history who have supported these Dalits, who are also termed as the untouchables, and they have been tried to be uplifted in the social hierarchy. Like such a major leader was B.R. Ambedkar, you must have known about him. So all this religion like Buddhism, Jainism and also the Bhakti movement that occurred after the medieval period in India. So during that period, all these leaders, they supported this equality among all the caste groups, and they supported the social upliftment, the economic upliftment, the political upliftment, and also educational upliftment of these lower caste people. So their oppression, their exploitation, that was condemned by them, and they were regarded as equal with other caste people. So in the next slide, they are the section of the Indian population that is economically backward, socially repressed, and educationally neglected. Okay, so they are called untouchables and also known as the exterior caste. The untouchables were designated as scheduled caste under the Government of India Act 1935. You also need to remember this. And then they are also known as the scheduled caste in the Indian constitution. However, Mahatma Gandhi addressed them as Harijan or God's people. So you must have known about this very well in your history classes. So scheduled caste are sub-communities within the framework of the Hindu caste system who have historically faced the deprivation, oppression, and extreme social isolation in India on account of their perceived low status. So they are considered being inferior to the higher caste people. So in that way, they are oppressed, they are exploited, they are not allowed to communicate properly or communicate freely with the other people or people belonging to higher caste people. They are not allowed to dine together, to eat together, and also to travel together or to talk with each other. So these are the basic human tenets which were or human rights were denied to them. So you must have known about it in your previous classes of caste system. And what were the problems that the Dalits or the untouchables were suffering? We will also read in the future course. So only the marginalized Hindu communities can be deemed scheduled caste in India according to the Constitution, Scheduled Caste Order 1950. So they were prohibited from drinking water from shared water sources, living in or using areas frequented by higher caste, and faced social and economic isolation, often being denied rights and privileges that may born into Savarna caste consider fundamental rights. So scheduled caste also they comprise 16.6% of the total population, or approximately that will be 166,635,700 people as per 2011 census. So they also constitute a major portion of our society, and because they are marginalized, because they suffer, they need to be supported. So in the next slide, we will be studying about the issues that were faced by the scheduled caste communities, or you can say untouchables or Dalits. So the first one is economic hardship. Yes, because they were not allowed to own the lands or to have the capital, the land and other wealth and the financial resources. They had to face the economic hardships. So they were always dependent upon the higher caste people for basic loans or like agricultural loans, and they used to take the loans from, or they were highly indebted from the higher caste people because they had to also perform certain rituals, or you can say festivals or the marriage of the daughters and sons. So for that they had to take the loans, and they were highly indebted in village areas, as you must have heard about that. So they had the economic hardship, and other problem that they faced was low asset ownership. The asset ownership rate among Dalits, or you can say a scheduled caste, is very low as compared to the other higher caste population, and they also have poor political presentation. Yes, because historically they were denied of the basic human rights, so we can't imagine them of having the high level of or the current political rights as those are enjoyed by the other higher caste people. So the educational hardships also are there. While some benefits of the social programs and government policies designed to increase the primary education rates can be noticed, but the Dalit illiterate population still remain much more lower. So if we see at the literacy rate of India, then we can see that the literacy rate among the Dalits is very, very low in comparison to the other caste population. So the caste-based discrimination is there. Despite efforts to decrease the caste discrimination and increase the national social progress, Dalits of India continue to experience low enrollment rates, and lack of access to primary education in comparison to the rest of India. Yes, they do not have the educational facilities because they already have the economic hardship. They are not able to fulfill their educational requirements, or they are not able to follow their desired career goals due to the already the existing problem of the economic hardships. So even the top officials who are Dalits are insulted and humiliated with caste slurs. So if you can have time, you can watch some of the movies of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He was also a Dalit. He belonged to Mahar caste from Maharashtra, and when he was appointed as an officer in a particular district, though he belonged to the lower caste, he was not treated equally with the other higher caste or the other caste officials in that particular office. So he was also denied to have water in that particular office. So there are many cases where even today, some of the officials who belong to the lower caste or who are Dalits or untouchables, they are not treated equally. So they are often prevented from entering any place of worship which is open to the public, and other persons from the same religion, they are not allowed to be a part of social or cultural procession, including jatras. So if you see in village areas or also even today, there are many cases where people are not allowed to go to the religious places like the temples and such things. So Dalit children are discriminated against when it comes to midday meals and getting access to clean toilets. So there are also areas where people, the children of the lower caste people, they are prohibited from accessing the clean toilet of the schools, and they are also not allowed to have the midday meals with the other caste people. Also, we had many cases and many news regarding the cases where children belonging to the higher caste people denied to eat the milk prepared by a woman who belonged to the lower caste population. So in that case also, that was a major issue, but later the collector of that area, he came and tried to persuade people that there is no such thing as caste and we should treat everyone equally, and then that issue was solved. But in spite of that, we can see multiple cases of caste inequalities in almost all the districts of India. Then in the next slide, we have another major issue faced by scheduled caste, that is the high rate of crime against Dalits. So they are exploited, they suffer from violence by the higher caste people, and the lower caste women are also raped by the higher caste men. So there are many studies regarding that. National Crime Record Bureau data shows that crimes against Dalits increased from less than 50 for every million people in the last decade to 223 in 2015. And also among all the states, Rajasthan has the worst record, although Bihar is regular in the top 5 states by crime against Dalits. So they are beaten badly because they try to be equal with the other higher caste members. And also they, the women of the Dalit or the lower caste community, they also suffer a lot, and they are also suffering multiple violence cases. So crimes against Dalits increased 6% from 2009 to 2018, with over 3.91 lakh atrocities being reported. At the same time, gaps in implementation of the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe Prevention Atrocities Act 1989 and the 1995 rules framed under it remained. So there is one rule regarding protecting the scheduled caste people from the exploitation by the higher caste or other members of the society. So that is this particular law, that is the Prevention of the Atrocities Against Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe Act 1899, but that is not implemented properly as per the report. So these are some of the cases or some of the data which prove that how scheduled caste members or the untouchables and Dalits still suffer in the modern India. So the report also flagged the rise in violence against Dalits and Adivasi women. So in the next slide, we will study about the safeguards. So because we understood that member of the scheduled caste communities, they face a lot of problem regarding starting from the economic problems to the political, social, and other discrimination in the society. They need to have equal right with the other citizens of India. So Government of India and also our constitution has framed certain rules and regulations to safeguard their interest. So we'll be studying about that. The first is the Constitution of India guarantees equality, fraternity, and protects liberty and ensures justice for all. If you have read the preamble of our constitution, then you must have known that it's based on liberty, equality, and fraternity, and also ensuring justice to all the members of the society. So these are the things which our constitution ensures, and in that way, the Dalits and untouchables or the lower caste people, their rights can be preserved. Then Article 15, 16, 17, 38, and 46 state that the state will not discriminate against people based on their religion. So, caste or social class. So, Article 15 of the Constitution prohibits discrimination on the basis of religion, caste, race, gender, or place of birth. So, you need to remember all these articles because these are the articles which provide safeguard to the marginalized community like scheduled caste in our country. So, Article 17 of the Constitution that abolishes untouchability, which used to be prevalent in the traditional Indian society. So now untouchability, it is a criminal offense. And Article 46, it promotes educational and economic interest of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and other socially and economically disadvantaged groups. And scheduled caste and scheduled tribe have reserved representation in the House of People and under Article 330, and scheduled caste and scheduled tribe have claim to services and post under Article 335. So you have to remember which article provides the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe reservation in the political sphere, and also in the service and other government spheres. So the central government has the authority to appoint a national commission for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes under Article 338, because these are the commissions who will investigate any matter which have violated the right of scheduled caste communities, and they will further give the suggestions and will frame the rules in order to solve that particular issue. So Article 339 gives the President the authority to appoint a commission to report on the administration of scheduled areas and the welfare of scheduled tribes in the state. So Article 341 also gives the President the authority to designate which caste, race, or tribe are considered scheduled caste in a given state or union territory. So it is the duty of the President to designate a particular scheduled caste communities for being scheduled caste, and after that they will be provided the certain safeguards that have been given in the Constitution and the rules and regulations of our country. And in the next slide, there are also other safeguards like Article 46, which requires the state to promote with social spatial care the educational and economic interest of the weaker section of the people. So as we know that Dalits or the scheduled caste communities, they have failed to access good education. So it is the responsibility of the state to provide these facilities without any discrimination to the weaker section of the people, and in particular the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes, and to protect them from social injustice and all forms of exploitation. So Article 15.4 referred to the special provision for the advancement. Then there is Article 16.4a, which speaks of reservation in matter of promotion to any class or classes or post in the services under the state in favor of SC, ST, which are not adequately represented in the services under the state. Then there is Article 243d, which provides for reservation for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe in panchayats in the same proportion as the population of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in the villages. So then Article 243t promises the same proportionate reservation for seats in the municipalities to the scheduled caste. Then Article 340, it gives the President the power to appoint a commission to investigate the condition of backward classes, the difficulties they face, and make recommendation on steps to be taken to improve the condition. So this was the article under which the Mandal Commission was formed. The Constitution of India has prescribed protection and safeguard for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and other weaker section, and especially the way of insisting on their general right as citizen with the object of promoting the educational and economic interest and removing the social disabilities. So whatever social disabilities and the deprivations they have faced till date, starting from the historical period, that needs to be removed. And for that reason also, now we have the reservation system that has been provided by the government. And though there is a debate regarding should a reservation be there or it should not be there, but we should remember that our constitution is based on liberty, equality and fraternity. So our country as we as Indians, we cannot advance without advancement of the scheduled caste communities. So they need to be supported, and this reservation, it acts as a weapon of positive discrimination. So we can't say that it's a kind of injustice, but it's a positive discrimination, so that the historical inequalities that were there in our society towards the marginalized section, that can be undone. So also we have the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment as the nodal ministry to oversee the interests of scheduled caste. So we have a special ministry in the central government. Also at the state level, we have special ministries to deal with the issues and to work for the development of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities. So in the next slide, we will study about the scheduled tribe. So as this picture I have put in order to give you a kind of imagination if you have seen any of the scheduled tribe community in your life. So this is how they look, because their way of life is a little bit different than that of ours. So in the next slide, we need to understand first what do we mean by scheduled tribe. So scheduled tribe is a major part in sociological studies. So they are another social category who are economically, socially, politically marginalized, like that of scheduled caste. And they are people belonging to tribes or tribal communities specified in the list of such tribes as per the Article 342 of the Constitution. So you also need to remember the name of the article, that which article deals with the scheduled tribe. So the name of the scheduled tribes that is listed in the Article 342 of the Constitution. And they are weaker section, not in terms of caste. And they are the people who have been living in remote forest areas and hill tracts as tribes without any access to the modern socio-economic inputs. So they live in the forest areas, they sometimes also live in the hilly areas, and they can be food gatherers, they can be nomadic herders, or they can be hunters. So there are multiple types of tribal communities in India and also in all over the world. It is difficult to define the tribal people of India in terms of any single set of formal criteria, but they are popularly believed to constitute the aboriginal element in Indian society. But most tribals have their certain features like nature of regalatory illiteracy, economic backwardness and social deprivation. So these are the things we say that they suffer from all these things. They are not literate, they are not educated, they are not so wealthy than in comparison to the other rest of the population of India. So this is because we view them as different. So because they have a different culture and their living space is different than that of ours, we view them as being weaker, but that may not be true, because there are also many cases where their nutrition level, their health status is much more better than us, because who we are living in the rural or maybe say cities and urban areas. So but basically if we view about or if we talk about India, then we are taking all the population including the tribals. So for that reason, we need to have some certain criteria through which we need to measure the development of the country. So in that case, tribal people, they have lagged behind the mainstream population in terms of education, in terms of political representation, in terms of economic prosperity, health facilities, all these things. So they are historically, one of the principal features of tribal population has been its ecological, economic and social isolation, because they live isolated in the forest and the hilly areas, and for centuries the tribal people have been confined to the hill and forest. The isolation has left definite impression on their social system. It has also given them, in spite of a wide cultural variation, a common destiny in the Indian society. So like scheduled caste, it was during British colonial rule that they are immersed in tribal consciousness. So the reason was little different. As mentioned above, for centuries tribal areas have remained unconnected with the mainland and mainstream. Yes, because they remain isolated, their geographical boundary is a bit different. That's why they have certain issues. So they are not as per with the mainstream population with regard to the educational attainment, economic activities and also political representation. So they were outside the effective control of state and state laws, and they had their own economy, tribal laws and customs. It was during the British rule that the extension of the administration all over and the line of railway roads, the tribal areas came under direct administration control. So even during the ancient and the medieval period of India, these tribal communities, they were isolated and they were not very much connected with the rest of the population, like people living in the cities or you can say the rural areas, because they had a different culture, a different way of life, and they live in an isolated place. So it was only during the British period when Britishers tried to rule over entire India. So it was also bound to be that these tribal people, they came under the rule of the Britishers, and the Britishers, in order to have some development, to have better facilities in India, they tried to have certain communication through roads and communication facilities, railways. So in that way, those forest areas, the hilly areas, they were gradually connected with the mainland, and in that way they came in contact with the rest of the population of India, and that resulted into their integration with the mainstream population. So along with the administrator, traders, money lenders and entrepreneurs also reached the tribal areas due to this improved communication system by the Britishers, and tribals were deprived of their land and autonomy, because when these people, the Britishers, reached there, they needed some people for help, also in order to understand the language, the culture of these tribal communities. So in that way, the money lenders, the entrepreneurs, the administrators, they reached there and they tried to take away the land for their own benefit. Those land, those common property resources, those belong to the tribal people, but their land were taken away by this administrator, by the money lenders, by the wealthy people who reached there with the help of the improved communication system. So in many cases, this led to tribal revolt. We have multiple examples of tribal revolt, like Santal revolt, Sannyasi movement. There are many revolts in India, also in Odisha. So these emerged among national movement leaders and British administration, a concern for protection and welfare of tribal people. So this is a little bit about how tribal people came in contact with the mainstream population, and only it was during the British period when they came in contact, and they also, it was during that period when they started facing certain challenges due to this linkage with the mainstream population. So in the next slide, we need to understand the definition of scheduled tribe. They are a group of tribe or tribal communities that are defined under the Constitution of India. They are traditionally a disadvantaged group, and the Constitution guarantees them some privileges and benefits so that they can come out of their backward situation. So they, STs or scheduled tribe, they make 8% of the total population of India, and they are deemed STs based on certain characteristics. So scheduled tribe population, the tribal people have certain features, like they have certain primitive traits, like the way they dress or the way they adopt to live or to eat, or the economic pattern that they adopt. There's geographical isolation. They are geographically isolated because they live in the forest and the hilly areas. Then they have a distinct culture, their language, the folklore, the myths that are there, their own custom, tradition. Those are very much different than that of the other rest of the population. Then their shy of contact with the outside communities. They don't like that much to be in communication with the other or the rest of the population, and they are economically backward. So these are the certain characteristics of the tribal population, and in the next slide we will be studying about the issues that are faced by tribal communities. So with the advent of industrialization in India, the discovery of a mineral and other resources, tribal inhabited areas, the pockets were thrown open to outsider and state control replaced the tribal control. Yes, because these tribal areas live in the forest areas or the hilly areas. As we know that these hilly areas and the forest areas are rich in mineral resources. So as our country is in the path of industrialization from the second 5-year plan, so from that period, the government started to exploit the mineral resources or the natural resources that are existing in these tribal pockets. So when they tried to extract the resources, those lands, those were occupied by the tribal that belonged to them, their ancestral properties, those were taken up by the government, also by the industrialists. So that caused a major problem to the tribal areas. So they were alienated from their own land, from their own common property resources. So according to the 1991 census, nearly 70% of the tribals are illiterate, and although it cannot be denied that education can act as an instrument for betterment of the tribals, ensuring greater participation for them in the development process, still there are certain factors which inhibit the tribals from taking the education. Yeah, though we have many facilities by government for the tribal population to provide them free education. There are ecological schools and also many model schools and hostels for boys and girls belonging to tribal communities so that they can study freely. Also, there is a scholarship system for them. Still, they we will find that they lack the educational attainment, and the literacy rate is also higher among the tribal community. The dropout rate among the tribal children is also high because there are certain gaps in the implementation of these programs and policies and these scholarship things that are provided by the government. Also, because these people, the tribal communities, they face multiple economic problems. They lack the financial resources. They don't have that much financial resources to eat, to live life, to have to fulfill their basic needs. So they fail to attain their education and they have to drop out from the school in order to help their parents in doing other menial and other works, or to work in the forest, to collect the woods. So many boys and girls have left the school, they dropped out from the school only to help their parents economically. So that is a major problem among the tribal communities. Then acquisition of tribal land by the government for the project led to large-scale displacement of the tribal population. This is again a major issue. Tribal people are they are displaced from their own land because of the development projects that are undertaken by both the central and state government. So their lands are taken away, so they don't have land anymore. They are removed from their own places and their own homes. So in that way, when they come out of that places, they also are not compensated properly by the government. That leads to many economic problems and also educational, social and political, many problems to the tribal communities. So in that way also they lost their identity, their cultural heritage and their language. All these things are lost in that process. So because of economic backwardness and insecure livelihood, tribals face health problems such as prevalence of diseases like malaria, cholera, tuberculosis, diarrhea and jaundice, and also problems associated with malnutrition like iron deficiency, anemia, high infant mortality rates, low level of life expectancy. Yes, because they are not that educated, and also because of the remote areas where they live, it's difficult for the government, or it's also difficult to provide that much infrastructure in those areas, providing schools, providing these medicals, the hospitals in those areas. Those become very difficult. So that's why they also are not that aware about the health problems, or about having a good hygiene and sanitation, which leads to all these diseases. And once these diseases happen, it also becomes difficult for them to reach the hospitals that is not available nearby, and that leads to death, malnutrition, and also infant mortality and maternal mortality. So the degradation of the natural environment, particularly through the destruction of forest and rapidly shrinking resource base, has had its impact in the status of women. Yes, because in tribal communities, women are much more independent. So if we compare to the other rest of the communities, or who, like the women or the families that live in the rural and urban areas, we'll see that women are traditionally dependent on the male partner, but in the tribal communities, they are more independent. But if the land, their own resources are taken away, then they feel they fail to have their own livelihood, they fail to collect the woods, they fail to collect that fruits to draw their own food from the forest, for which they become the worst sufferer. Also because of establishment of many infrastructure and developmental facilities like the plants and also the mining things that are happening in these tribal pockets, they face many environmental problems, degradation of the land, degradation of the water and other resources, the rivers, the ponds. Those are highly polluted due to all these plants and industries that are established by the government and the industrialists. So also for that, women become the worst sufferer because they are no more able to go to the forest to collect their food and also to live a normal life. We also had the example of Posku and Vedanta that occurred. So where also the case of Niyamgiri. So there are also tribals, they went on strike against Posku because that was aiming of establishing a plant in that area. So they tried to reserve or preserve their own area or their own space, those hilly areas, the forest, the river that was there. So there are also some success stories, but mostly they face multiple problems due to these developmental projects by the government and also the private factors. Then extinction of tribal dialects and languages is another cause of concern, as it indicates an erosion of tribal identity. Yes, tribal identity is also lost with the process of urbanization, westernization. When they come in contact with the rest of the population, they fail to preserve their own dialect, their rich cultural heritage. So in the next slide, we'll be studying about the safeguards. So like the safeguards for scheduled caste, there are also multiple safeguards for scheduled tribes, like 164.1, then 330 for the reservation for STs in Lok Sabha, 337, 334, 243, 371, and also there are multiple safeguards in the field of the services, like Article 16.4, 16.4a, 16.4b, Article 335, Article 320, 40. So you need to remember these articles and try to understand what these articles try to say, or what they try to do through the constitutional safeguards for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities. So in the next slide, there are multiple safeguards in the field of education and culture. There is 15.4, then there is the 29 article that talks about protection of interest of minorities, which also includes the STs. Then Article 46, we already discussed about it. Then there is Article 350, that is right to conserve distinct language, script and culture. And then Article 350, there is the instruction in mother tongue. And there are multiple social safeguards like prohibition of traffic in human beings and beggar and other similar form of forced labor, Article 23, then 24, forbidding child labor. Then also in case of economic sphere, there are like 244 article clause 1, like fifth schedule shall apply to the administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes, in all states other than the state of Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram and Tripura, which are covered under the 6th schedule of the constitution. So there are two specific schedules to deal about the tribal areas, that is 5th schedule and 6th schedule. So we need to remember this because you will be having thought question regarding these articles in your examination. And then Article 275, which deals with granting aid to specified states like STs and SCs covered under 5th and 6th schedule of the Constitution. So we can't say that these are the articles, so it should generally come under political science, but why we need to study in sociology? No, we need to study it because we are studying Indian society, and in a society as we are studying the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe who are marginalized, we not only have to study about the problems they are facing, we also need to understand the safeguards that are being provided by government, central government and state government and our constitutions, and also which require the support of the other citizens for their betterment. So in the next slide, we will just discuss in short some of the questions. The first is which article provides reservation of seats for STs in Lok Sabha. So you need to find out and we need to remember these articles. Then which article abolishes untouchabilities? So it's Article 17. So try to remember this particular articles relating to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities. Then what type of problems do STs face? We already discussed about it, like the economic problems, the alienation of land, then from the environmental problems they face, then the displacement, the loss of dialect, culture, and many health problems, malnutrition, anemia, and diarrhea, all these issues, a lack of health facilities in the tribal and remote areas. So these are the problems you can narrate a little bit in your answers. So this is all about marginalized section. We finished it. Okay, thank you so much.